Wait, this is so fun. I think my nails are shallot colored. What an exciting day for me. Hi, I'm Mehreen, and I'm gonna turn this into this. So I'm making a chicken korma pot pie, which basically takes the spices and flavors of a traditional Bengali chicken korma and mixes it with the fillings of a pot pie and, of course, the puff pastry topping that we all know and love. Okay, let's open up the chicken and see what kind of bird we're working with. It's a big one. This is definitely bigger and seemingly juicier than the ones I get at the grocery store near me. Oh, she is juicy. I'm gonna start just getting the legs and the wings off, pretty much. This is a special occasion dish. I do not make chicken korma pot pie often. I think the last time I made it at home, I actually made little hand pies. So we call them patties for Ramadan. We usually make a bunch of little like puff pastry hand pies with a variety of filling. And my filling usually resembles the chicken korma that we're gonna make today. And then sometimes, like when you're breaking down a chicken, if you're cutting in like 1 millimeter off, it'll feel tougher than it should be. But once you find the sweet spot, like where the socket meets the bone, it is like butter. So now that we have the legs and the wings off, I'm gonna cut around the breastbone. I just touched like the top of the bone where it like spreads out to the two breasts. That's how I know to move down. And then I found a sweet spot where I can just cut a full line down. The only reason I would want to carve it is because I would like to use the center of this chicken for a stock. My main goal with this rotisserie chicken, there's so much fat involved, there's so much skin, and it would be a shame not to use it in the pot pie and the pot pie gravy because gravy is just fat. And if we can use the fat from the actual chicken, it'll be so much more flavorful than just butter. So from here, like after I have all the meat, I'm just gonna start hand pulling these bones off because it's so easy. And I will separate that into the same dish that will go into the stock. If I can help it, I would like to only use dark meat here. It would just really consolidate the cooking time and be juicy. Okay, I feel like this is probably 3 cups of chicken actually, because this looks like 1.5 and 1.5. It is chopping time. So I'm just gonna start giving this a rough chop. And along the way, if I like find extra fatty pieces, I'll throw them in the stock pile. And again, like every step of the process, I'm just checking to make sure there's no extra skin that will fall off while it's cooking. And these are for lunch on a different day. One of the signature elements of a chicken korma is the onion or shallot paste that gets made at the beginning. I think 4 giant shallots should be enough, but we're gonna see. I might even use more because they can surprise you. There are so many alliums in South Asian cooking, and I think that's like the #1 difference I've learned while doing pop-ups at restaurants is that the chefs are just like, why do you need 20 pounds of onions? And I was like, I'll show you. I'll show you why I need 20 pounds of onions. We've never had leftover onions. Oh my God, there's a shallot in here. I almost like threw this baby away. So a lot of my food influences growing up were not just South Asian, but Southeast Asian as well. So when I found Malaysian street food in New York City, that was so exciting because that is just like special occasion food in my house. Because Malaysian cooking can be so tedious. There's lots of pastes and frying. I guess that's 1 or 2 millimeters. I mean, honestly, when I spent time cooking on Next Level Chef, I had no other choice but to not look stupid and like learn how to properly claw and like make sure I mise things out. So a lot of the basics of culinary school, people were saying that they felt being on the show was like a culinary school boot camp. Mirepoix, it's the name given to the celery, onion, and carrot mixture that's usually at the base of a lot of European dishes. I don't know if it's just specific to French food, but it does show up in like a bolognese or Italian food. It might have a different name though. I know in a lot of Latinx cooking, they use sofrito, which is a similar version with, I think they have like more bell peppers in there, different ingredients. And it's funny when I think about what the equivalent of a mirepoix is in South Asian cooking or Bangladeshi food, onions, ginger, garlic. So I feel like there's an aromatic base or trinity to so many different cuisines, and this is the French/European one in my head. This is much bigger than a traditional mirepoix, but that's fine because I don't want the carrots to like melt away into this gravy. I want them to be analogous to the chicken as well. So it is gonna serve as an aromatic base, but we already have a lot of that going on with the onions, ginger, and garlic. That's the actual mirepoix here. Okay, so I'm going to start by filling it about halfway of the height of the ginger and garlic with the oil, because we want enough. Okay, I'm gonna start, I feel good about that. Okay, let's chop. My whole body's dry already. So hopefully chopping it using this little chop button will get it down to an even size. And then now let's try to grind. I'm gonna give it some time to reflect. So take a spatula, spoon, whatever, and just push down your sides because we want to make sure there's no rogue ginger bosses up here. Depending on whether you're using a blender or a food processor, if it's been a smooth journey so far, great, continue. But if you feel like it's been stagnating, feel free to add like a glug of oil. Okay, we're in a beautiful place because it is like mashed potatoes, kind of. Delish. We have chopped all our veggies and aromatics, so now we're ready to fry. We actually want to start the shallots off in cold oil and then turn the heat up and let them residually heat up with the oil, and then they'll come to a nice fry. So to start, I'm just going to fill this deep pan about 2 inches. Now, before turning the heat on, I'm gonna run my fingers through the shallots a little bit to help them detangle. Thankfully, the oil is not hot, so you don't have to be scared of plopping them in. Once again, continue to just like break it up in your fingers where you can. Anything that doesn't get broken up, we'll stir it around. So I'm turning the heat on to like medium high just to get it started. I'm just gonna use a wooden spoon to start pressing the shallots down into a place where they aren't crowded in clumps. Like they're definitely gonna be touching, and that's fine. We actually are relying on the shallots to release some of its moisture into the oil to prevent it from getting super crispy or burnt. One of my favorite things about making fried shallots or fried onions is that you can just set it and forget it when you fry from cold. It's when you start hearing it and smelling it where you're just gonna look at it and stir it around to make sure that everything gets browned evenly. When it starts to bubble and when I can smell the shallots, like I'm gonna see that it's starting to cook, which means I just want to shake it around one time before I let it rest again. At this stage, you want to make sure that as soon as it starts bubbling, you at least stir one time, because that means the base of the pan is probably the hottest, and all of the shallots that are at the base are gonna get hotter and fry faster than the ones at the top. So all of the shallots now magically fit in one layer because they have now lost a lot of their moisture and steamed off. Now they're finally starting to brown. I want to make sure these like golden brown ones stay where they're at. These other juicier pieces of shallots will just continue frying while they're off the pan. So now just using a spider or some sort of slotted spoon, drain as much oil as you can, but if not, the paper towel will get it. Wow, we thought the day would never be here. So now we're gonna make a paste from the shallots and the chicken skin. Actually, I'm not even sure that I've made shallot paste myself. I've only heard about it from my own mom, but we're gonna see if it works with chicken skin as well, and I will get back to her. So I'm gonna start off with like half the amount of shallots we have. One, it's nice to have crispy shallots on hand, so we might not need to use all of it. We really just want like a few tablespoons of this paste to start off the base of our pot pie gravy. And then I'm gonna put all the chicken skin in here because I do wanna get the most out of that rotisserie chicken fat. And hopefully we shouldn't need extra oil because the fried shallots have reserved some of that oil it was frying in, but we'll see. Okay, and that was just on the chop setting and it's looking pretty good. So now to grind. I'm very excited to smell this. Ooh, that's a paste. Good job, mini chopper. Wow, and that is about the exact amount I wanted. So to start off making our filling, I'm going to set a deep saucepan pot on medium-high heat and add about 4 to 5 tablespoons of butter. And we just want to melt the butter down while we prepare to make a roux. A roux is a combination of butter and flour that's been cooked down. A roux is gonna be a paste, and that paste is going to keep the sauce thick as you add liquids. So we're just gonna start by melting the butter down. I'm gonna start off with, it's probably like 3 tablespoons, but actually I'm just gonna do all of it because I want this as pungently chicken and oniony as possible because that is the heart of a korma. I'm just gonna let it break down into the butter and let all of the various fats get to know each other. This is adequately melded, so now to add a few tablespoons of flour. We want this to be a pretty dry, almost dough-like paste at the beginning because we're gonna introduce many more liquids here that are gonna turn it into a smooth gravy. This smells so good. I didn't think that the shallot chicken paste could smell any better, but then we introduced butter, and it officially smells even better. Delicious. I'm gonna add my onions. I've grown up watching my mom say onions first, and I could not possibly record this video and not do that and show it to her. And just adding the onions won't get you that far. We actually need to go ahead and start layering in our salt. This will help the onions release a good amount of moisture and soften them. So I'm gonna first start with ground coriander, and I do have garam masala, which I'm also gonna be adding. And I think after I let the spices mix in and cook with the onions a little bit, I'm ready to add either water or a little bit of chicken stock if you have some lying around. And this will also help the sauce and gravy start forming. So just enough to like reach the perimeters of the pan and mash everything down. You can see it's already starting to thicken. I'm now gonna add about 1 heaping tablespoon of the ginger garlic. Now that we have this liquid in here, I'm gonna also add our carrots and celery because we wanna give these time to simmer and release their own juices. Like 1.5 cups total of both. That's gonna thicken some more. I'm just mixing it now to make sure that all of the roux is dispersed and getting a chance to thicken the liquid that we just put in. I'm gonna add a little bit more stock to give the celery and carrots a chance. We're going to now cover this. I'm gonna leave it like slightly ajar so it doesn't bubble up. I'm gonna let it go for a total of 20 minutes, but at about 10 minutes, that's when we're gonna add in the chicken because the chicken needs a chance to also get to know everyone else. So it's been about 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and add the chicken. I would like to add a little cheat code for sweetness. It'll help bring out the savoriness, to add a little bit of honey and really make that caramelized shallot flavor shine. So a dash of honey isn't gonna make it too sweet. It's just gonna balance out all the savory notes. And we're just gonna let this simmer now on medium heat. And I wanna get it even thicker and more reduced than where we're at because the final ingredient to any korma is some yogurt. It is pretty classic to add yogurt to a chicken korma, of course. Add some tang and creaminess at the same time. So now we can take this off the heat and put it directly into our 9x13 casserole dish. You can use 1 sheet of puff pastry dough, roll it out to the size of your casserole dish, about 9x13, and you can be done with that. But I have heart cookie cutters, and I'm gonna use them. I would love to shingle these on to the pot pie and create puffy little hearts everywhere, because that's how it feels when you eat a pot pie. By the time you roll out your puff pastry, the surface of the pot pie filling should have cooled down just enough to not be boiling. Okay. We have our pot pie filling ready to get shingled with puff pastry. At this point, have a pastry brush out in case you have excess flour on your sheet of pastry. A gentle brush will do. I'm gonna start by placing on the large hearts onto here. And you want to work like relatively quick, just so even the residual warmth of the filling doesn't start melting the pastry. And I think from here, I'm actually just gonna start using the mediums and smalls. When you brush egg wash onto something, like pastry or breads, anything, you're basically giving it an extra browning power. So it'll brown much quicker and evenly, which also means it can act as like a paint of sorts, not actually paint, but some hearts can be more brown. You can get creative, some can be washed and some don't have to be. And if your brush dips into the filling, that's no problem because that filling is mostly some fat anyway, so it'll also help the browning of your pastry. Now I'm gonna fill in the gaps with some medium-sized hearts. I could put hearts on here for the rest of my life. So now I will go and just put the wash on the little baby hearts. And now we're ready for the oven. I think this will go for maybe like 25-ish minutes in the 400-degree oven, and we'll be back. It has been about 30 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and take it out of the oven. Oh, she's gooey. Wow. Hearts. I am so happy with how this turned out. You should definitely let this cool. You should let any casserole or puff pastry, pot pie cool for at least like 20 minutes. I am going to serve myself a bowl of it and garnish it a bit and try it. Okay, I think because it's so hot, it's like very wet right now too. So it might be a little soupier. We have some extra crispy shallots from what was left over. So I'm gonna sprinkle that in because that's just nice texture as always and a nod to the base of this whole flavor. And a little bit of cilantro or greenery, never hurt. Now let's attempt a bite. That tastes like korma. That's exciting. I'm very proud of myself. I've made a few different versions of this, and I always find that the spices try too hard, which I'm so glad that I just leaned into that shallot puree because that is the reason this tastes like a proper korma. There is so much depth to this sauce without relying on the garam masala to make it taste like korma or without relying on the coriander powder. The ginger and garlic are definitely there, like bolstering up that juicy red meat from the chicken. And the chicken actually absorbed all of those flavors really well, as far as I can tell. So I'm extremely happy with this balance. I've made a version of this at pop-up, and yeah, this has completely changed the recipe that I first entered this video with for sure. And I'm really glad that I made these changes because I think this is absolutely doable at home, but also I don't know, I've never tasted the exact merging of these two favorite foods before. I've tried for years, and it finally feels like what I was looking for this whole time.